Welcome to the 24th episode of Let's Conquer Books. Aldous Huxley said, "Words can be like x-rays if you use them properly. They'll go through anything. You read and you are pierced." In this episode, I talk about the 4 steps to create good or get rid of bad reading habits, which are identifying the routine, experiment with rewards, isolate the cue, and have a plan. So let's get into it. I'm your host, Alexander the Great Reader, and this is a place where we read, study lessons, and build our inner power, because the next level we will reach does not tolerate cowards. Now, the book about this episode is called The Power of Habit by Charles Duhigg. I think I'm pronouncing it Duhigg, Duhigg. He used to write for the LA Times, for the New York Times. He's an undergraduate from Yale, got his MBA from Harvard. He just recently wrote a really good book called Smarter, Faster, Better. He also won I don't know if it's a Nobel Prize or Pulitzer, for being part of a team that wrote an article, a 10-piece article on the New York Times. So he's the author of this book. And this book is something that you can apply to anything in your life. But since this is all about books, a podcast of books, we're going to use it as a way to read more books or get rid of habits that are not allowing you to read books or more books. So the premise of this book is the habit loop, because it's all about habits, and there's a loop when it comes to habits. And this loop is a neurological loop that was discovered by MIT researchers. And the loop starts with the cue, goes to the routine, and then the reward, and goes back to the cue, the routine, the reward. That's the loop it does. So there's 4 steps to create good habits or get rid of bad habits. So the first step is to identify the routine, the behavior you want to change or create. So I'm going to always have good and bad. So a good routine would be reading 10, 5, 20 pages a day, or reading 5, 10, 30 minutes a day. A bad routine would be spending 10, 20 minutes, 30, 40 minutes a day on Netflix, on social media, or other forms of entertainment every day. Now, what is the cue for the routine? That's what the next thing you got to find out. So the good cue for routine is, you want to finish a book, or you want to start a new book, or that you have free time and that cues you to go read. A bad cue for your routine of, watching TV, Netflix is, having your phone close by. Maybe you're feeling tired and that cues you to watch Netflix or grab your phone and jump on social media. Maybe you're bored, you have nothing to do, so you go and start watching Netflix, social media, or watching the news. And then what's the reward? So the good would be finishing. Your reward of reading would be finishing a book, the reward of, beginning a new book is that now you just started a new book, and now you're on the path of reading a whole book, learning things as you can apply. Once you finish, maybe you can apply something, and you're like, wow, this book really helped me to open my eyes of things I need to change or things I need to apply. You feel more wise. You feel like you're using your time more wisely also. That's your reward. You feel that you're growing intellectually. A bad reward would be like after watching Netflix or being on social media, you feel like you wasted your time. Sometimes you go down these rabbit holes on social media of arguing with people, opinions and criticisms. Or you start watching Netflix, you feel bored, and you end up binging and using, now it's 1 o'clock in the morning. You're like, wow, I got to go to sleep and I didn't get nothing done. The second step is experiment with rewards. Rewards satisfy cravings, and cravings drive behaviors. So by experimenting with different rewards, you isolate what you're craving. So good rewards would be get closer to finishing your reading challenge. So if you have 30 books to read the year and you just finished the book, your reward is now you're a book closer to finishing that challenge. A good reward is that you're learning something you can apply. Like if you read this book, now you know that you can have a strategy to create habits or get rid of habits. That's your reward. It helps you solve problems. Reading a book while reading, and maybe you have marriage problems and you read something like the 4 Agreements, and now you start applying and now you've solved this marriage problem of communication. Your reward is that you get a post on social media and tell your friends and people you admire around you that you just finished this great book and start recommending it, and you get excited. That's your reward. People will be like, wow, you're reading books. Your reward is you have a broader understanding. Now you can listen to certain conversations on podcasts or read certain articles or certain books, and now you're understanding more of what's being referenced, of what's being claimed. And the reward is you're different. That's my reward. I feel like I'm different. I know it. Just by engaging with people, I can tell who reads books and who does not read. And I'm different. I'm someone who likes reading books. Now, the bad reward would be like if you're watching Netflix or on social media, your reward is that you don't feel bored anymore. Or you're not feeling stupid, because sometimes people feel stupid reading a book because they don't understand it, or they're not capable of reading such material or subject matter. Maybe they feel like a failure because they've had this book for 3 months and they've only been able to read a chapter, and they're just avoiding the whole thing as a whole. Or they're reading too little, makes them feel like a failure. So the reward is not feeling like a failure. Be in the know of current events. That's a reward. You're on social media and you're getting all your current events so you can speak at work. So that's not even being different. That's like fitting in. So you know what's going on with the sports, with the news, with going on in your social media, going on in the current shows that everybody likes. The third step is to isolate the cue. So psychologists have found out through experiments that most habitual cues fit into one of 5 categories. The first category is location. So an example will be like your living room. So a good cue is having a bookshelf in your living room, let's say, or having a book close by in your living room. That's what I do. I always have a book right by the kitchen. I always have a book there. So that's my cue. I see my book. Oh, and I'm in the living room. I know where my books are. Bad cues is and you're in your living room and it cues you. You see a TV and now it cues you like, oh, let me sit down and watch some Netflix. Or the couch just looks so warm and inviting and you're feeling tired. You're feeling like you want to be lazy. And the couch just attracts you like that. So that's a cue of the location of your living room. Time is another cue. It's the morning. A good cue is that, it's the morning, you wake up and now you have a book next to you, or you have a book that you're reading every morning and you have to read it and it's just become a habit. And that's the reason why you're waking up early. A bad cue is, you have your phone close. Some people sleep with their phones. The first thing they do is grab it, look at their social media, look at emails, look who called them. That's a bad cue. Maybe another bad cue is you sleep in. You sleep to the furthest point you can sleep to get ready and go get your day started. You don't have no time to read. So the morning to you, your cue is like, I don't have time to read. I got to get ready and go. Your emotional state's another cue. So let's say you're stressed. A good cue when you're stressed is, I feel stressed. So you grab your book, and like what I do is I go out for a walk, or sometimes I listen to an audiobook. A bad cue is like, I'm so stressed. And, let me just watch some TV to unwind. Or let me go on my social media to unwind. That's a bad cue. Other people can be a cue. So it can be, let's use no people. Maybe there's nobody around. And a good cue for me, if there's nobody around, I have time to read. I grab a book and start reading. A bad cue is if there's nobody around, then you reach out to other people. You start texting, calling, say, hey, what you're doing? I have nothing to do. Or you start watching the TV or the phone. But if there is people in the room, maybe a good cue is you're not liking the conversations they're having, and you go and read. A bad cue is like, oh, there's people around and I just like to be around people, or I can't focus. There's people around, I can't read. Another cue is immediately preceding action. So, to read. So, you get the cue to go read. A good one was go grab the book and start reading a book that you've picked out or that you're already reading. A bad cue is like, oh, I should go read. But then you go into the routine of thinking. So you just think yourself out of reading. You go, oh, I'm tired, I can't concentrate. Or, oh, look what time is it, I don't have time. Or I'm too stressed, I really had a stressed out day and, I can't go read this book. Or you think like, oh, I don't have any good books to read anyways. So, and that right there, there's something that cues you to read the book, and the immediate preceding action you take is talk yourself out of it. So the step 4 is have a plan. This is very important. So the habit formula is when I see a cue, I will do the routine in order to get the reward you want. So my action plan is, so my cue is usually that I have a Fitbit, and my daily goal is 14,000 steps. So that as soon as I wake up, I know I got to get on this goal, because you got to walk a lot. It's over like 5-6 miles every day I got to walk. So I have a routine. So I know to get to these steps, I need to walk twice for 30 minutes. So I use those 30 minutes to read also. So that's it. That knocks out about 7,000 steps and an hour of reading. And I usually need to read an hour and 30 minutes to get my 100 book goal. Other steps I do during the day take care of the other 7,000. So the other 30 minutes, I have cues. I have free time, or I'm driving and I'll just listen to the audiobook for 10, 15 minutes and I get my hour and a half in. So what's the reward? I get my 14,000 steps and my hour and 30 minutes every day. And the reward, it's a compound effect to doing this daily. It's good for my mental and physical health. I get a lot of benefits from walking every day and reading an hour and a half every day. And it's always going to benefit me in my life journey. All this knowledge, understanding that I'm applying and reading and perceiving all these things and reading memoirs and biographies, helping me with my empathy, helping me to listen. It's just great what this habit of mine of reading does for me. So your action plan. So you need to identify the reading routine you want to create or get rid of. So experiment with different rewards to satisfy your good or bad reading cravings you have. And take the time to isolate the cue of what's helping you read or not read. And lastly, have an action plan to create a good or get rid of a bad reading habit. So I want to thank my listeners. Now I'm over 1,000 plays and downloads. Amazing. I love it. My reading challenge, I'm at 82 books out of 100. I'm going to blow 100 books out this year. Crazy when you really strategically have a plan for your goals, how you always exceed them. It's crazy. So let's connect. I'm looking for people to interview. I'm looking for authors to interview. I'm looking for ideas for episodes, maybe articles you've read, blogs you've seen, posts you've seen. So let's connect on Twitter. I'm a lot on Instagram, a little bit on Facebook. All the links are in the description, and I will catch you on the next one. Please subscribe to this podcast on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, Anchor, or any other platform that has podcasts so you don't miss the next episode where I talk about how reading books turns you or develops you into a great listener.